How are you?
About the same as I was earlier today.
Not a whole lot of change in that amount of time, right? Were you on the BPW?
Yes,
I thought that was a very good presentation.
I thought it was too. And that the takeaway I had from it was be vigilant. Don't go overboard. The one thing I wish he had spoken about a little bit more, but the purpose of his presentation, the BPW, was the whole question of the uncontained aquifer and how it all interconnects. I mean, he touched on it, I think, adequately. I just would have preferred a little more information.
Well, and we can, so if we have him come and talk to us.
Hello, everybody.
Provide some of that.
Katrina, Carolyn.
Hi, Katrina.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. Yourselves?
I am well.
I gotta get
Excellent.
a tie. Wait a minute. Maybe this works. I felt like I was sitting under. I felt like I was sitting under the thing.
Hey, Carolyn. So I'm going to show you.
I just did.
Uh-oh, we
This
lost
is-
her.
Oh, I'm right here. There you go. That's the main room in the house.
Hi, Carolyn.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
You can swing all the way around. You can see Brooke over there in her
Oh,
little rocking
hey,
chair.
great.
Hey.
Oh, are you in New Hampshire now?
Yeah, we're in New Hampshire.
Oh, great. I was wondering if you were going to be able to do it from there.
Well, we'll see. The
Sometimes.
yeah, if you all of a sudden see me turn the video off. Hi, Larry.
Hey, it worked. This is a new experience for me.
Excellent.
Cool.
Welcome.
My wife is in the other room Zooming a University of Delaware course on trees or something.
Oh, great.
She has a class every Wednesday night for.
Hey, Tom.
Hey, Tom. Look at Tom's in his civvies.
Yeah. I didn't know who it was.
Tom was off today.
Oh, well, thank you for joining. I don't know if he can hear us.
I don't think he can.
It still says he's connecting.
There we
Oh,
go.
right,
Hear us,
right,
Tom?
right.
We were just commenting on we didn't know you without, all the regalia.
No, this is well, not my first Zoom meeting, but it's been a while. From home.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I've seen you
From
on more than
home.
one.
Right.
Well, thanks very much for taking time off on your day off to join us.
Sure. Not a problem.
Okay, so we're waiting for Nancy and Rob. Yes, we're in New Hampshire. I was just on another Zoom looking at all the sunshine you have down there, which we do not have up here.
Finally.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a teaser.
It was a great game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like more rain is on the way, which is amazing.
Mm.
So I'm gonna text Nancy.
Anne Marie, we didn't have minutes, did we?
No,
Thank you.
Jackie's doing the minutes and.
No, I just wanted to make sure I didn't
Okay.
forget them. Oh, it's
Yeah,
fine.
it is possible. Did Jackie submit them? No, she did mitigation. That's what she did.
No, that's fine.
I haven't seen him.
Yeah, she hasn't done them yet.
Okay. I gotta go get a glass of water since we're still waiting.
And I'm gonna run and get a charger just in case.
Okay, I'm gonna go get some water.
So Rob was probably on BPW, so I wonder if he lost track of time.
I just texted him.
Hold on. Nancy's pal's got her hand up. Nancy, I just unmuted you.
Thank you.
Did you have a question or,
No, I just wanted to make sure you knew I was there.
oh,
I'm not showing up on my own screen.
I'm sorry. I'm fixing that.
Thank you.
Okay, we got Nancy. Hey, Nancy.
Hi there. How are you?
Good.
Are you back from up north?
So we'll just wait for Carolyn.
Ugh.
Yeah,
She
we're
is
up
up
in,
north.
we're up in snowy New Hampshire.
Should be here. It's spring.
So I gather, I mean, you know, most sensible people go to Florida and we go to New Hampshire. So anyway. It's
Keep it
we're
in
much-
mind
we're
as
much
July.
freer of COVID up here, I guarantee it. Well, it's 5:31. Everyone is here except Councilperson Morgan, who I assume will join us in a moment. I have texted him. Just a couple of quick preliminaries. First, want to welcome Trina and Larry to the group. Thanks for serving, and we're looking forward to your contributions and making this an even better committee. And I want to apologize for the mix-up last week. What it did, it turns out that the police agenda was posted. It's just that you could only see it internally, not externally. So we discovered a little issue is that a fair way to put it, Anne
Yeah.
Marie?
There was a box
So-
that needed to be checked that wasn't, that we didn't even know because the box is embedded in the meeting template. And so now it's resolved, it won't happen again. And we know now if we set up a new meeting type that to look for that box.
So that's another contribution that the police committee has made to the city of Lewis is we have to help them discover the box. So, that will lead to better things. I wanted to also just share some quick updated information coming out of the Lewis budget process that is, I think, important, particularly for this group to hear. First of all, and Anne Marie and Tom, correct me if I get this wrong, but council has authorized the hiring of 2 additional full-time uniformed officers. So, and the reason for that is multiple, but in part it's, getting our bench strength ready for possible retirements. I mean, we never want to lose anybody, but people, particularly in law enforcement, they do, after 20 years sort of say, well, that was, maybe it's time for something else. Besides, after 20 years, they're still very young. So
Does that bring us to a full force of 15 or 14? Or is it 15, Tom?
Yep.
Okay.
So
And
that's
where
one
are
thing.
you
The other
right
thing
now?
is,
So we
11.
were authorized at 13, but we currently have 11, but we have one out on medical leave, so we're really at 10.
Oh, wow.
So if
Wow.
you see our officers, be very nice to them because they're working very hard.
Wow. So you're at 10 right now, although your full staff is 11 because you had 2 that left, but they're giving you 15 altogether?
Our normal full staff would be 13. 2 left to bring us to 11, and then one's out on leave.
you had 2 left, but maybe make sure I've got the math right.
It's
Yeah.
confusing.
Are you going to replace the 2 that left? Let's start with that.
We're
Yes.
starting with that, and then and then 2 additional.
I'm with you now. Okay.
So that should hopefully alleviate some of the problem, just the shift coverage issues, period, if you're down to 10, but also should ultimately, hopefully make us more able to have 2 officers on duty at all times, which is the goal. Is that fair, Tom?
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay. It still won't get us completely there, but it'll get us closer.
It's going to be a while if you only got 10 right now, Tom.
Yeah,
That's tough.
maybe the 11th will be back before summer, but we're not certain.
Wow.
But you want to talk a little bit about your recruiting, so you give the committee, I mean, Tom is not letting any moss grow here.
Yeah, that's for sure. So if the committee remembers, we were going to hire last April. We put that on pause because of the pandemic and financial reasons. And I got approval, what was it, November?
I think so, yeah.
November or December. I forget exactly, but as soon as we got that approval, we started recruiting again, got a list together. January, we ran a test, written test, physical fitness test, 2 oral interview boards, background checks. We have 2 conditional offers out now, hopefully a 3rd by the end of the week. And then, of course, we have the academy hurdle to get over before that. The academy starts first week of April. It's 20 some weeks long, so it's going to be a while once they graduate from that. So in August.
Well, what's your gut feeling on the 2 that you have out, 2 offers you have? Any feel for
I'm
that?
sorry, one more time.
What's your gut feeling on the 2 offers?
Well, they've
that
accepted
you
the
have out?
conditional offer. They have
Oh, they
have to
have.
get through a
Okay.
psychological, some medical screening and a drug screen, of course. One is a pre-certified guy from Maryland who I think would be a really nice fit. There's a possibility he could not go to the academy and the certification transfer. Not my decision. That's a decision the Council on Police Training will make. We have all his training records and we'll forward them to them as soon as he finishes all the other medical testing and is fully hired. We're hopeful that that'll happen, but there'll probably be some in-house training if that does happen. So certification will be dependent on some in-house training, which we can accomplish shorter time than the academy generally. The other guy,
Well, in terms of a timeline, when do you think they would be on?
so if on the street helping us, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Or
the
on
academy
street
will run.
alone. I mean, there's,
Yeah, the academy runs through August. After that, when they come to us, there's a little bit of in-house training, but more importantly, there's a field training period of probably 3 months. So
Wow.
Christmas.
And then,
Wow.
From start to finish, it's between a year and a half process.
right, and that's, the field training consists basically of being with a more experienced officer, rather
Yep.
than being able to go out immediately on your own. Is that correct?
Yep, learning all our procedures and processes and the way we do it. The academy teaches them a lot, but doesn't really teach them the departmental procedure stuff.
Well, I would think
Chief,
too.
does it matter where your officers live? Do they have to live local, or do they have to?
No, of the 3,
Does it matter for?
it doesn't. There's no residency requirement. I had that when I was back in Wilmington, but here there is not. Actually, one does live in the city, one lives in Dagsboro, and another one is from Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey.
It just seems so hard that if you're running with 10 and it takes that long to fully bring someone in and you get ready to come on peak season, that's kind of tough, isn't it?
Yes, it's
that's
It's
part of the reason that we wanted the authorization to go up to 15. Other than, I mean, the chief, I think, has made a compelling case that's where we should be. But aside from that, even if we want to stay at 13, it's going to be hard because, as soon as you get those new people on, you've got other people who are eligible to retire.
Oh, whoa, yeah.
So we're
Yep.
trying to
Give
get
yourself a little wiggle room there, right, by bringing it to
The
50.
effective date for these extra 2 would be immediately, so you could, like, if the 3rd person among your offers accepted the offer, you could go toward 14 and then recruit another one for 15.
yes, it's not likely short of a Delaware certified transfer that we'll meet the 15 mark right now. Hopefully
Right.
14 will happen.
Mhm.
We have also in the, just, anybody have any more questions on that topic? Okay. We also, this is one other sort of notification to the committee from the budget process. We have authorized the hiring of 2 additional meter patrol folks who will be dedicated to the beach area. And the goal there is to help deal with some of the parking problems. We're going to try to better delineate parking issues. I mean, it's a balance because, you know, there's no curbs down there. So you can't do what you ordinarily do with the yellow curb saying, you know, don't park here. And we don't want to turn the beach into sort of a, you know, a bevy of parking signs, you know, so there's a balance there. But we're hopeful that these 2 folks will be, you know, they'll be uniformed, they'll be evident. And hopefully that will cut down on some of the problems that we had, particularly last summer, which was, you know, because of COVID was sort of an oversubscribed summer, but hopefully it'll cut down on some of the parking issues we had and some of the misconduct issues that we had by having a greater presence down there. And I'm hoping that'll take a little bit of the pressure off of the uniformed officers.
Right, because they're solely assigned to the beach, right?
Correct.
And who will be supervising these people?
Dennis Crawford.
No, but I mean, it's the police, it's still under the
oh.
police.
Yes, I think we decided to move the lifeguards over to be under Janet for Parks and Rec, but the meter patrol, I think the chief made a very reasonable presentation as to why the meter patrol should stay. Look at you, you're a
You're not the
cat.
only one.
Hey, cat.
Uh-huh.
It's a good way to destroy my train of thought, Chief.
So the meter patrol is going to stay with Tom.
Yeah, they're going to stay with Tom. Dennis Crawford returns as, I think this is his 4th year as the supervisor, 3rd or 4th.
I think that's right. I think it's number 4. Yep.
Yeah. So he's got that group
5th.
5th.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, is it 5?
Because I started in 17 and he was the parking supervisor in 17. That was
Okay.
his first year. So I
Okay.
counted on my hand. So I know I'm right.
It's the most scientific way.
And you're
So,
right.
Yeah, so that will, you know, that will
Okay.
be how that goes. So those are the only sort of pieces of information that I have to share from the budget process, other than please zoom into the budget hearings. It's always very interesting. The chief had his go round last Friday, so I'm sure he's delighted to have that behind him. So turning to the main part of the agenda, we basically, it's pretty wide open. So I had 2 thoughts on how we might proceed, but I'm open to anybody else's. The first is there are some aspects of the police report that was put together by the original committee that we really haven't touched on very much. So we could spend some time focusing on those. But more importantly, does anyone have any particular issue that they want to address this evening? Like I said, it's a pretty open, not you, not yet. It's a pretty open agenda. So I think we can. Oh, you have a question. All right, go ahead.
So one of the things we talked about last time was going over what has been implemented in the report and kind of where some of those items are. So I didn't know either now or at some point the chief has, you know, kind of developed his kind of list of everything, and I looked at it and added my comments. So we have kind of our combined list of
Oh, I think that would be great. That would be true. Why don't we do that unless anyone disagrees? And then if we do have time and the inclination to take on something additional, the two things that I was looking at in the report that we really haven't talked about at all are the sections on how to help our citizenry when it comes to the cyber crimes stuff. And also the trails. The trails are obviously a big issue, and as it warms up down there, like today, it becomes an even bigger issue. In fact, on the agenda, the February Mayor and Council agenda, we had two separate items dealing with trails. So, it's going to be a very, very active summer, I suspect. So, Anne Marie, why don't you and the chief tell us what you've been able to carry forward based on the report? Uh-oh, you're muted.
The chief really prepared the summary, so I'm gonna let the chief go through it. And then
Great.
if there's
Okay.
any
Can I
questions-
just ask one question, because I want to make sure I'm on the same sheet of music with you. When I took this and went over it tooth and nail, in terms of, I'm assuming that when this was finished and it went up to the council, that they saw this just before COVID, so they gave us our blessing on this, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so, all right, because I was just wondering if we were going to do a status of where we are on all the things we said we were going to do.
Yeah, I think so. My recollection is that Mayor and Council received it and then sent it back for, additional work
Right.
at the September 2020 meeting. So, and then, the committee sort of had stopped when COVID hit. Every committee stopped when COVID hit.
Mhm.
And we finished it off. And so now we're going back to it.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, Tom, please.
Okay, Bonnie, you just like me to go from the recommendation starting at 1?
Yeah,
That
that'd be
sounds good. So the first recommendation from the committee was, the lifeguards and parking enforcement. As Anne Marie already said, lifeguards have been moved to Janet, who's in charge of Parks and Rec. And we really just thought that the parking enforcement division, especially with the amount of interaction we have with them, that will never go away no matter where they're assigned. And the pending potential of parking permits, we just thought it made sense to retain it in the police department, and it's the best fit for now.
Good.
Anything to add to that, Emery?
Can I add one thing? And Chief, I think you're aware of this. The council, Parks and Rec recommended, and council said yes to adding another. Well, actually, we took Parks and Rec Commission and increased it from 9 to 11. And one of those additional commissioners who has yet to be named, will be responsible for beaches 1 and 2. So that person will, I'm sure, interact with, with both the meter folks and the lifeguards as we try to make those beaches, as attractive and well-maintained and well patrolled as possible. I think the other commissioner probably will be for Great Marsh Park, so that's not germane to this, but just for the completeness. So I just want to pass that along as another beach development.
And just, I guess to add, I did start the formal process of transitioning the lifeguards. I met with our lifeguard captain and Janet Reeves, our Parks and Marina administrator, yesterday. We tried to meet last week, but it was the snow day, so we didn't want to have her on the road. So so we have started that process, and she also does know that there's going to be a commissioner for the beach. So so we're working on that.
Good.
Okay to move forward?
Please.
So the second recommendation was the consolidation of services. And there's been, quite a bit of progress. First thing I'll address is the facilities management. So Emery, I guess a new position in our maintenance department was the development of a facilities manager, and that is currently now Allison Kirk.
She switched over from Park and Rec then.
Correct, yes. She, so the police department building itself is one of, I don't even know how many there are, but one of several that she is in charge of managing. She's overseeing, previous to that position, was pretty much incumbent upon me or my lieutenant, or sometimes even an officer working to, oversee the contractors that were in there doing a variety of different work. She's been able to take some of that off of us. There's times that we still interact, obviously, because, we know the building and we know what needs to be fixed. But moving forward, I think the plan is for her to continue to do that and do monthly or weekly walkthroughs to identify things before they even, are reported to her or before they even happen. So that's been a pretty nice addition.
Yeah, I'll say that makes sense.
The human resource function, obviously, Emery again created a new position for the city. I think new position. I don't want to speak out of turn here, but Shelby Shockley is the new HR representative for the city. She's done a very nice job so far. She's helped us manage. Well, she's for the whole city, of course, but she's helped the police department specifically manage, a lot of the COVID related absences, family medical leave. She also oversees our payroll. We still approve payroll in the department and send it over. In our recent hiring cycle, she's been able to help me develop some more professional letters for conditional hires. So that's been a really nice addition. I think as she is here longer, it's even going to get better as she becomes more familiar. The police process is certainly a unique thing, and once she goes through a few of those, I think it'll be pretty beneficial.
It's got to be a real plus for you.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Yep. On the procurement, still mostly our function. It's, to order law enforcement specific items, requires a certified police officer to research, to know what to buy, and to speak with the reps and do all that. So that hasn't really
that has to stay with you.
Yeah, it pretty much does. Some of the clerical stuff my administrative assistant does with the city representative, who's Lenora. The technology support, I think the committee was aware of this last time, but 2 years ago, we had our own IT contractor. We switched from him and went with the one the city has, who was also has his certifications to be able to do police departments. He does a couple other police departments in the county. So we added him in. We get 1 day a month as a matter of routine. We can call him for other issues if and when they crop up. My lieutenant is still doing quite a bit of that work, just because we have so many systems. But it's good to have Eastern Shore Network and Technical Services is the company's name, and the guy part owner is named Chris. We can call Chris at any time, and he can generally walk us through or come in and troubleshoot if need be.
He works for other places
Chief,
in the city. Yeah.
He does one Thursday a month at the city, and then like 2 Thursdays later, he comes to the
Oh, I
police
see.
department.
He actually does 2 Thursdays a month at the city
Oh, he does? Okay.
and 1 at the police department. So even he's available if something were to come up and he needs to get into the police department on the, city day, we can always do that as well.
Great.
So recommendation 3 was the emergency management service that the police department provides. We really, well, the officer that handles that is the one that's out right now on the medical. And since COVID, we just haven't really been able to get much traction in figuring out exactly how we want to do it. I know Anne Marie and I are going to meet with Corporal Marsh and Janelle Cornwell, who's the city planner. And we're going to really try to develop that more clearly moving forward as far as splitting it up between the two and who's going to handle which portions. But we just haven't had a chance to really get too far into that yet.
Okay. Okay.
Recommendation.
Chief, I have a question.
Yep.
I have a question. When you're talking about emergency management, what would that involve? Would that involve something like if there was a tornado or hurricane warning? Would that be involved in emergency management?
Yes.
And the police would get involved if they necessary,
Oh, sure.
evacuations and things of that.
You know, we have an operations manual and an operations plan on file. You know, should a weather event like that happen, you know, hurricane, a flood. I mean, there's a variety of things.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's I'm sorry, that's what I meant
All
by
right.
emergency management.
Right, and
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I was thinking.
right, and part of that, just so you know, if something is declared a state emergency or a federal emergency, there is certain paperwork that needs to be done. There, you know, there's the pre-planning that has to happen, the training of people that needs to happen. So there are all of these things that need to be done in advance so that we're ready. And then there's the implementation during a disaster. So what we're really looking at is having, right now, that's all kind of under the umbrella of the police department. And one of the other areas, the chief mentioned Janelle and Chatham. Chatham's the person who has it now. You know, part of the benefit of that is bringing the planner skills in and you know, kind of dividing the workload based on background and strengths. The other thing that I forgot to mention to the chief is one of the things that I want to shift to our HR administrator is the training records. So our members of council, new employees, you know, whatever, have to take a number of classes in the incident command system, and we need to maintain those training records. It makes more sense for HR to maintain the training records than for a police officer who spends most of his time out on the street to be managing the training records, if that makes sense. So what we're trying to do is look for where the logical division of responsibilities, so that the things that truly aren't the expertise,
Police related.
right, that then that comes out of the police, and that the logistics and police, that the things that really are the strength of a police officer stay within the confines of the police department.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one other thing about this duty. And this really goes to, excuse me, to Trina's question, which is that we've had a police officer on the hazard mitigation committee for years now, so that police have input into all of the advanced planning for catastrophic weather events in particular, as well as obviously being instrumental when it comes to managing evacuations and stuff. And Corporal Marsh has, I don't think he did it last year, but for a couple of times has done a really, really effective lecture for the citizens on why, the bottom line of it is, when you're under an evacuation order, you really need to evacuate. But he explains in great detail and with great examples why that is so true, that, you know, just kind of toughing it out is not a good choice. So it's just another role that that the officer has played in this whole grouping. So Tom, take it back to you.
Okay. Recommendation number 4 was in reference to the internal affairs investigations. All the recommendations have already been implemented, probably 6 months now. So we've,
How's that working?
well, there haven't been too many. 2.
Okay.
And, so far fine, I mean, there's always bumps in the road, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, there haven't been that many, and everything has been outsourced. Discipline still pretty much starts and ends with me. But as far as the investigation, that is external now.
Okay.
Recommendation 5 was the enhanced patrolling. I think the committee, well, the previous committee knows the detective was reassigned to patrol duties. It's based on a couple things. One bad, one good. The bad thing is our staffing was so low, we needed to fill the critical patrol spots. And the good thing was I could move him out of detectives because there wasn't that much major crime. We had a good run of time where there just weren't the number of follow-ups that there normally are. Probably COVID related, who knows?
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of speculation that, home-based crime sounds wrong.
Yes,
Crime involving home break-ins, thefts, things like that. Everybody was home.
yeah, that's definitely down. The domestic side, domestic situations are up a little bit, but not for us. We're pretty steady. There's also talk about moving the lieutenant. It's not something I wanted to do. I think it's pretty critical. We have the administrative staff to run the police department, to make sure we're meeting all our standards and training and equipment and in systems. So I just, it goes without saying that I'm a policeman first. My lieutenant is a policeman first. If something happens that we're needed on the street, we'll be on the street. But as a matter of routine, we just can't go out there every day and work as a patrol officer with the responsibilities we have internally.
Chief, do you want to talk a little bit about the accreditation? Because I don't think that we were moving in that process when this group last convened. So
I was going to bring.
Yep. You're right. I don't think we were. About 7 months ago, we took the plunge to become an accredited police department. And in the state of Delaware, there's the Delaware Police Accreditation Committee, which we've signed up with, and we've been working through the process. Lieutenant Azzato is in charge of our accreditation. It's I'm sure some people have been through accreditations. They're big jobs. And so we started that process. We are almost halfway through, I would guess, right now. But it's a, lots of hours per day job, and it's department wide. The accreditation will, give us some. I mean, we have really good policies that provide for our standards and the shields of liability for the city. The accreditation is just a kind of a building block on that. We now, or we will have, the state of Delaware tell us that, we've met these standards. There is, I think, 107, 108 standards. They add them as they go, so it might be even a little bit higher now. But we're working our way through those. They span the whole gambit of policing, from use of force to custody of prisoners to equipment. I mean, it pretty much is all encompassing. But we've been through that process with the assistance of the commission, and I'm hopeful that maybe by the end of this year we will reach that. We'll be Fifth Police Department in Delaware. There's a couple in queue with us, so I'm trying to beat them, so we're not sixth, but we should be one of the top 5 to attain that. Now that's a state accreditation. It's different from a national accreditation, which is even a much bigger, project to take on. We thought this would be the best way to go now.
Tom, when you achieve being number 5, does that open the door to additional grant opportunities or training opportunities for the department and for the officers?
Well, definitely some federal grant opportunities. Department of Justice has tied certain aspects, and some are contained within the accreditation process. We actually meet most of them already, but it'll certainly, I know the national movement and potentially even the state movement is to tie federal money to certain standards, and sometimes that could be an accreditation. So it's not a mandatory because we already meet most of those or all of those criteria, actually.
It might be useful to the commission as you work through this. If you can give us an update of the areas where you're, still working, and, perhaps our ongoing recommendations or actions could be in support of achieving the certification.
Okay. Yeah, so Lieutenant Azzato has spent lots of hours managing that, because he's one man with other responsibilities. It's going to take us a little bit longer than normal, but that's all right. It is what it is. Any other questions on that?
No, other than when it happens, we should have see if the Cape Gazette will discuss it and have, if we can all get together by then.
Yep.
Have something at City Hall to mark the moment and recognize the lieutenant's contributions in getting us there.
Yeah, he's managing the process. It's a department-wide process, so there'll be lots of input from everybody, but that's a great idea. Speed enforcement, I think, is next. Really, the committee recommendation was to add flashing speed signs, and I think that still needs to be acted on by council. We have pre-height of the COVID pandemic, I mean, you guys know everything has changed since last March, but we have been very successful running some group radar efforts. Savannah Road, New Road, Kings Highway, Pilottown Road. I mean, we've, twice a week, actually, one of my lieutenant's responsibilities also currently is to gather up the troops and go run some group speed enforcement. And again, I don't have the figures in front of me, but I think we've given out, I want to say 300 and some. We've made 500 and some stops. We've given out like 370 some traffic warnings and only a very few tickets. We want to really try to send a message that, we're trying to get serious on speed enforcement in the town. We don't want to become, the revenue generating place, because that's certainly not what we're about and not what Lewis wants. But we really wanted to send a pretty strong message to the community that we're out there enforcing our speed limit. And currently we've been stopping people at 5 over. If you've ever been on New Road, it's pretty hard to stay at 30 or below. But as time goes on, we'll probably, we'll continue that program. Eventually, I'd like it to become a patrol function.
Are you trying to find other places where to put those signs? Was that one of the?
Well, I had 2 questions. First, I don't recall this being in the budget. So that's something maybe we need to talk about. But second, the additional, pulsing signs. I also wanted to ask, Trina and Larry, if they had any, we've talked about enforcement a lot, if they had any particular spots around town that they had noticed might be someplace for the police to focus.
Trina's gonna say 4th Street.
Well, we know that.
Well, it's ironic.
It's a wonder we haven't been killed on
actually,
4th
yeah,
Street, honey.
It's ironic because I was
I'm
actually,
not gonna say 4th Street. I'm gonna say, but I was gonna say DuPont Avenue when we had a lot of the school activity back and forth. But I think I mentioned that a while back, but you were saying it's probably too short of a distance to really check with the flashing light or the monitor. But what I find a lot of times is people blowing the stop sign,
Oh,
Right.
absolutely.
rolling right through.
They
between
roll
Johnson
everyone on
Street
4th
Extension
Street.
and DuPont Avenue.
You're right, Trina. I mean, they blow everyone on 4th Street. I mean, you can be sitting there and just as you get ready to go, somebody's coming at you. They just don't even see you at that any of those stop signs on 4th Street. It's getting worse, I think, don't you?
I sometimes feel like I need to stand out there with a sign, stop.
I know. Me too. It's really getting bad.
Larry, you had, I think you were jumping in?
well, ironically, I was going to actually, before any of these meetings, I was actually going to contact somebody. The last thing I want to do is get one of my neighbors arrested because I called the police on them. And it's not my neighbors, but I live on, it's Mariner and Captain Circle in the reserve at Pilot Town. And I think some people are coming off New Road and trying to beat the system to get to the hospital in the morning. Because I ride out of here 3 days a week at 8:50, and the same guy was going by me when I was on my bicycle, and he had to be going 50 miles an hour on Mariner to meet 4th. And he did it every day for over a week, and then the weather turned, so I haven't seen him. And I'm positive that's what he did. He came off New Road and trying to hustle up maybe to the hospital or something like that. Then there's some construction going on in our neighborhood too. So I think some of those guys are coming in from out of town and they're really abusing the safety of these streets because the streets are lined with people walking and people biking and babies and stuff. And the streets are wide, but I was really kind of a little bit put off by this one particular guy. But that's the last thing I want to do is be the one responsible for getting somebody down the street busted for speeding. But it's not our neighbors. It's the people that are coming through here.
Larry, do you think that is, I mean, I'm trying to picture where you are exactly, but one thing that I've noticed, particularly since the speed limit on New Road went down,
Right.
Is that I think people are getting even more antsy and they're cutting off as coming into town. They're cutting off New Road sooner.
Where I'm right across from the University of Delaware's entrance off New Road. So they take a right into our development, and then they miss where the police have been setting up between the university and 4th Street. I think that probably is one of the cases that it's making it that way. But I think, I think that's what it is. But there's consistently a line of traffic about the same time every day around 8 that goes down 4th Street that I think is probably going to the hospital.
No, I think the hospital shift changes at 7, isn't it?
Well, maybe it is, but it seems like to me that somebody's going to work at a similar time. Yeah,
It's the city workers.
maybe.
No, actually, I don't know who's going to work right now because of COVID, but yeah.
We also have Harbor Health there too.
Yes.
Quite a few workers.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
But anyway, that's the only thing I've really noticed. But it was very obvious to me that a couple guys were out of control, and that I'd never seen that before in our neighborhood. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on speed enforcement?
No, it's going to be a continuing effort. I think everybody knows we have identified areas that the officers have to be at a couple times a day for a certain time period. And those are the ones, 4th Street corridor, Savannah Road, Kings Highway, the ones that we get the most complaints about. Next is enforcement on the multi-purpose trails. Really, not much has developed on this. I don't think, Bonnie, you would maybe know better as far as any ordinances or anything. I know the Bike Pedestrian Committee is looking at a bike ambassador program. I forwarded them a draft I had written up for them to look at and develop under their committee. I'm not sure where that stands as we speak.
I think I don't think I sat in on their last meeting. I think they're working on it. They had, it was very interesting. Our bike ped committee, okay, let me back up. Remember the trail symposium, for lack of a better word, that Ernie Lopez did, what, coming up 2-3 years ago now, I forget.
Yeah.
And one of the big issues was that this Delaware law that essentially allows bicyclists to treat stop signs as yield signs and go through them if the coast is clear. And there was a lot of discussion of that, and that it was ambiguous and confusing. And then the bicycle folks said, quite reasonably, I mean, how many of us on a bike stop at a stop sign if there's nobody around? I mean, you just don't.
Right.
But
Right.
but there was some legislation up at the State House about basically saying that the current, making permanent the current, yield sort of thing. And our bicycle committee opposed that, which I thought was interesting. So, I think there are real concerns about the confusion it causes, which we all heard about. The other thing that they want to have happen, and we don't have any pricing on it, I don't think yet, or it's pretty clear it'd be a city responsibility if it happens, is removal. There's a number of places on the Lewis Georgetown Trail where there are these double bollards that were put in at the city's request by DelDOT because we were having trouble with vehicles going on the trails. And the double bollards kept that from happening. The Bike Ped Committee has recommended those be taken out. I don't think we acted on that. I think we're going to get some more information on it and talk about it, job on about it some more. But so that's what's going on out there. Anne Marie, did we ever enter into an agreement? Well, let me back up. The city has an agreement with DelDOT that requires the city to police the Lewis Georgetown Trail. And there was months ago, there was a move to have a similar kind of agreement with Den Rec about the portion of the trail that's on the beach side of the canal going out towards Cape Henlopen State Park. It basically parallels along Cape Henlopen Drive. Did we ever do that? Well, so you don't have to monitor that, Chief.
Well, we
do anyway, I know.
We've
Yeah.
kind of been taking care of it, but because we don't want to end up having it be no man's land and
Right.
degrade and be a mess, and then we get it. So
I mean, this is one of the things that I thought this committee could be, could make a positive contribution on. I mean, working with Bike Ped, I mean, nobody wants to get ahead of anybody else, but from the policing standpoint, what's realistic here? And it's, you want to talk a little bit about the bicycle police effort that you put together, Chief? I'm sorry, I mean the certified officers on bicycles. Sorry, I didn't mean summer bike cops.
Yep. Okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. 2 years ago, I guess, like you, Bonnie, I'm losing track of years here. 2.5 years ago, 6 police officers became certified by the International Police Mountain Bike Association to patrol on mountain bikes. Perhaps you've seen it. I will concede our staffing recently has made that a little bit more problematic. And then the COVID, obviously changes everything. But I do have some overtime funds. I'm going to use it for bike patrol this coming summer. to get some, regular cops, not the seasonals that were once here, but real police officers on. Dedicated to mostly the trails, the beach, and downtown area initially.
Mm.
Do you want to go on to recommendation 8?
Yes, I'm pulling it up. Hold on, I'm sorry. So 8 is identity theft and cyber crimes. I don't have the report in front of me, Bonnie. Do you want to read the recommendation just so everybody's aware? I can comment on the
Sure.
bullet points.
The council should consider directing the police department to develop an appropriate standard operating procedure for handling identity theft and cyber crimes. B, develop a contact list for affected persons to assist them in pursuing their complaints with appropriate authorities. C, continue to issue alerts through the city's website and the police department's Facebook page, and work with local news media to provide timely and complete warnings about internet and phone scams to the public. And D, conduct periodic workshops for the public about protecting oneself against online and phone predators and scams.
Okay, thanks. So, we routinely use what media we have available in social media, our department Facebook, the city website, to broadcast warnings when we receive them, to broadcast warnings when we know about activity in the city. It's really kind of the best we have right now. But we do reach, I think our Facebook is up to 3,000 followers. That doesn't mean it's all city people, but you know how word spreads quickly. So it's certainly a good tool that we like using. And so far I have some money available for a videographer. And I've made contact with them. We just haven't finalized anything yet, but I'm probably going to either do myself or get somebody, another police officer, to do some sort of a short, like PSA type, public service announcement type things that we can also put up on our websites, giving tips about identity theft and cyber crimes and what to do, what not to do. The village, Bonnie, this, the Lewis Community Village has done quite a few workshops on it that I've participated in. I think we were supposed to do another one. Of course, that got canceled. We have some lists together that police officers routinely refer people to, so we're pretty good shape there. Did I miss one, or did I hit all the bullets?
Chief, I do have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Trina.
If the average citizen has say somebody was trying to scam them, or they got a call from someone who they thought was a scam, would they report that directly to the city of Lewis, and then city of Lewis Police Department would put out an alert, or how would that go?
Yeah, that's the typical way. That's the best way as well. Call us, we'll certainly come out, take the information, whether it goes any further depends on there's a couple things, whether or not there was any money actually taken or transferred. And the feds have a pretty high standard for dollar amount, which is, problematic for the local people that get, a couple hundred, couple thousand even. But we forward those on, we use, the Delgis network to make sure that everybody's aware. It's a really hard thing for small police agencies to investigate much further, than taking an initial report.
So is there some type of, what type of communication is available for someone? Is that only somebody who doesn't have Facebook, or or a senior that doesn't have that kind of access, how would that be communicated to them so they would know what to do or their next steps?
Yeah, great question, Trina. We are somewhat limited, and you can't really, like, for a seminar or something like that, we can focus on people. But for the events that might crop up that we put an alert out, you really can't do like an informational handout type thing, because by that time it's over and done with, and they're on to the next city, so to speak. But certainly for something, once we get back to non-COVID times, certainly, I don't know if you came to our police meet and greet, we plan on doing events like that, but with more of a focus on identity theft, cyber crimes.
Well, maybe a flyer or a refrigerator magnet. I don't know if there's a budget in that to hand out to citizens at certain areas, especially seniors. I really concerned about, seniors that sometimes get those phone calls that, want their social security number or bank number. So, I'm hoping that something that they can have put on their refrigerator or somewhere that, warning Will Robinson,
Right.
that kind of thing.
And as we know, the scams are literally endless. Everything. I mean, if you name it, they've probably done it.
Yeah, one thing, I mean, there was a seminar put on by financial whatever, and the main thing that I got out of it was, be careful with your passwords. I mean, of course, they want you to use passwords you couldn't possibly remember in a million years. They're not supposed to write it down anywhere. But leaving all that aside was the importance of this two-figure verification, which is basically where when you access an account online, they send you a text with an access number. You have to type it in. And there might be just some kind of off-the-shelf sort of canned training that we could offer via Zoom. Maybe the state police have it or would have a lead on it, but there might be something really just sort of in the can that we could pay a couple $100 for, and say through the city's website and whatever, tune into this Zoom. We're going to show you, some ways to protect yourself, something like that, which would be, hopefully it would be maybe you, Chief, could do an introduction to it, just to set the stage, and then you just put it on Zoom, and you could do it a couple of times to reach as many people as possible. And to Trina's point, if we had enough advance notice, we could put it where people go in Lewis. Well, of course, nobody goes anywhere right now, so this is probably in the future. But ask Lloyd's if they'd put up something. Put it in the Cape Gazette.
Right.
You
That's where I was
put it in
gonna go.
I know St. Peter's, for example, in normal times, will put little blurbs in their Sunday bulletin. But if we could come up with some kind of off-the-shelf thing. The other question I had, and this really echoes what Trina's saying, I think, is I don't know whether the state police or the FBI or whoever is responsible for this stuff sends out regular sort of warnings, here's a new scam to local police officers. And if they do, maybe that's something we could put at least on the website. And then we just have to tell people, and on the Facebook page, of course, that we just have to make sure that people are aware that these are places they can go to see what's out there. But I'm with Trina. I mean, when my mom was alive down in Florida, every other phone call was and not just the Microsoft people. In fairness, my mother would say, "Oh yeah," so she wasn't having any of it. But boy, I mean, people get victimized every day to the tune of thousands of dollars they really can't afford to lose.
Yeah. So all the stuff we get from
My
other
neighbor,
agencies.
same way. She gets all those phone calls, but she's not internet savvy and barely a cell phone user. So that's where a whole group of people may be getting lost in in the sauce where they're not
Understand.
Zoom, they don't do those kind of
Exactly,
Yeah,
communication.
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And that's something we brought up a long time ago. Not making an assumption that
Yeah.
people are technically capable of getting this stuff, and that we should either do post it in Lloyd's, everybody goes to Lloyd's, post it in the Gazette, put it visibly out there for
Office,
people
at
to
the post
know.
office, at the bank.
Well, everything. I mean, that, that's really not a hard thing to do a hard copy, the post office, Lloyd's, the drugstore. That's where people get information from. It's real easy because we get in the habit of using we're sitting here on Zoom. A lot of people don't know what Zoom is.
And
We
I think,
make a hell of a lot of assumptions
and I think
that people know.
I think the other opportunity that may be being missed is that we have a lot of, well, before COVID, had a lot of events in the city on Second Street or in the parks or what have you, that, someone could just hand a flyer to people to say, please be aware.
Farmers market
scam.
would be perfect.
Absolutely.
The farmers market would be perfect. Right.
yeah.
Yes, I think we
Particularly
got to
if
think
it's-
about just plain ordinary hard copy paper to get it out there, because that's how things will flow better for the many people here in Lewis.
Yeah, and particularly if we could find some kind of, canned training that would be valuable. We could say that it'll be shown on the, it'd be, here's the following Zoom days, so people will know, we can have one little thing, but, I do think that this is a real problem for
Mhm.
everybody. I mean, if this financial group decided that they needed to do a seminar on it, either they got hit or they really have had a bunch of clients who've had trouble. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just a real good, if we can figure it out, it's just a real good thing to do. And right now we can't do anything in person. So
That's even more the reason why we should do paper.
I'm just thinking about people who don't know what Zoom is and how happy their lives are.
Yeah. Anne Marie is one of them.
Uh, she's
This is a
become the
good
queen
place
of
for the
Zoom.
library to be involved. They've been so good about their programming, and they have a huge Zoom following. And so this, we ought to recruit Rebecca Lowe and her folks.
Oh, good idea.
That is a
You
good
could
idea.
also, I mean, we have a bunch of that's a great idea, and we have a bunch of resources. For example, if at each of these commissions and committees in the city has kind of a different group that follows them. So the Bike Ped, African American Heritage Commission. I'm trying to think who else.
Public arts.
Parks. But people, those are groups, those get to people who talk to people, and that's the way the information gets out there.
Yep. Word of mouth. Can't beat it.
Yeah, it's just something to think about. And I don't want to get in the way of work assignment, but if we do get a management fellow, Anne Marie, that might be something that he or she could assist with. Some tech savvy youngster.
Yeah, it's really, well, I hate to make that statement, but it really just gets back to real paper. Just put it out there for them to read. Not everybody is technical.
Oh, no, I was thinking that tech savvy, I'm sorry, I was thinking the youngster could find the training.
Oh, the person that
Yeah.
she got.
They'd know how to find the websites where this stuff might be,
Right, I got you. Yeah.
but I think it would be a real value for the citizens and a real great community policing outreach for the police department. Something tangible that would help.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah, okay, that's a great idea, actually.
Okay.
I think you also need to set some realistic expectations so that this doesn't become something that's 24/7 for the police department, and
Oh, yeah.
perhaps their more important duties get
Well, no,
crammed.
you could find somebody to just make this an assignment. It doesn't have to necessarily be a police
No, but
thing.
if you're
Get
encouraging
the
people
information from them.
to call
Yeah.
Chief Spell every time something happens.
Yeah, well, I think the important message there is, the fact of the matter is these kind of scams, once it's happened, it's done. You're never going to be able to find these people. So,
Well, then don't encourage people to call the police on it. I mean,
No. I was thinking that prevention, education,
Yeah.
Educate.
prevention, and kind of
but I'm
saying,
not sure that that's what the recommendation says.
well, we'll modify that recommendation. Or else we'll have to give him 10 more officers.
Yes.
Chief, why don't we skip the consultant study for now? And I think we can skip, since Rob isn't on, and the assist to other agencies was kind of his thing, unless you want to talk about him.
No, I don't think there's a need. I think, yeah, I don't think needs anything. You want me to go to
Why don't you go to
11?
community
just-
policing, I think is the last one then.
Yeah, I have 12. I'm not sure what number 12 is. Number 11 was just, I think the committee's desire to make it known that community policing is that important to Lois, which I agree with. It's a huge part of our philosophy. We've instituted lots of community policing initiatives, and they're ongoing, and we'll always be here as long as Tom Spell's the chief.
Well, I think one really important thing you've done that I can think of off the top of my head is assigning an officer to each of the homeowners associations, so that there's a point of contact.
In its infancy, but yes, that'll help in moving forward in the future as well.
Okay.
Are there neighborhood watches in Lewis?
No. I don't know if I think there was at one time way back when, but there hasn't been any, certainly since I've been here.
There's still neighborhood watch signs up around Lewis.
I know. Yes, there is.
That may be a deterrent, so that's good.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing, right?
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
mind that.
I mean, I
Put
think
more of those up.
I think one of the things that really helps is, because of our police department, people are willing to walk at night, right? They're not afraid to go out at night. And because people are out at night, that's a deterrent in and of itself. And also people see things and report it to the police, which I think is terrific.
Yep, that is good.
So,
And so when I saw community policing, I'm thinking not just the police policing, but the community, and maybe the community could be more involved in communicating the the watch out for internet identity theft and things of that nature. So maybe the community can be more involved in, by word of mouth, sharing and communicating to their neighbors about that piece.
Well, if I get another call from the IRS, I'm gonna hurt somebody. Every time I turn around, I get a call from the
Been there, done
telling
that.
me that this is the IRS. So one time I said to them, "And where are you?" And they gave me some address that was so absurd. And I said to them, "Well, you'd at least say you're in DC," because I don't know if anybody else has gotten them, but I get an enormous amount of calls from that type of scam.
Oh, I've heard people blow whistles in the phone. So when they've done
Oh,
that,
yeah.
It's a good idea. Yeah, the car warranty.
blow a whistle.
okay, Chief, number 12 was to create a standing police review committee. So we
Yep.
don't have to worry about that one.
Right.
Anything else?
I'm sorry, what has happened on that one?
Well, we're still an ad hoc committee, but but the effort, council continued the committee because here we are. So anything else? And if not, Anne Marie, do you have anything to add?
I've got nothing to add.
Okay. So here we are. The question for the group is, having heard Tom's response to the recommendations, which I just want to say personally, I really appreciate that you and your officers took them to heart and have made these important, moves towards fulfilling them. I think that's great.
Sure.
So I guess there's two questions, one for the committee and maybe one separately for Tom. I'm not sure if they're separate, but which is, how do you all want to go next? I mean, the two things that I think that need more work from the committee standpoint would be the trails. And one of the things we talked about, you'll recall from the report itself, was whether or not we need a separate ordinance within the city of Lewis on the trails, because there was a question about whether or not the state rules were enforceable. And that's not, I don't mean, clamping down on bicyclists. I mean, things like you got to have a light and you got to have a helmet and all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing that we could, I think, assist with. And the other one is to put more meat on the bones on this idea of how to help people with cyber theft and ID theft. Those are just my ideas. What do you guys think?
Well, I agree with Trina and the idea that we have got to educate we have to figure out how to get that information out to people on scam. I think that scam thing is really a scary thing. And I really believe we have to, it sounds complicated, but the bottom line is it's real. We just got to get them educated. If it's a piece of paper, as soon as you learn something and we can just get it in the Gazette, comes out Tuesdays and Fridays, that's got to be a help for somebody to read it, because they're not going to get online. They're not going to find out how to do it technically. So that's something we can really take care of right away, I think, unless if anybody else thinks it's a big issue, but.
Well, so here's my suggestion, that Trina and Carolyn, I think both have really good thoughts on this and have talked passionately about it. And they are not they're not a majority. They're not a quorum of this committee. So can I task you guys with working together and coming back with some sort of an outline of something that we could propose? And
I don't see it as a complicated thing, Trina. I'm
Okay,
simply talking about educating.
Mhm.
I understand what you're saying, Bonnie, but what's your thoughts, Trina?
I think we might just come up with some certain ways of educating, like we mentioned here, and just make it just a formal recommendation.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's
I'm still having trouble figuring out where the police role on this is and
give
why
us the information. They need to give us the information. I mean,
I just don't see it as their natural source of expertise, that there are lots of people in this community who may be better at it than the police in terms of and maybe you have resources, Chief, that you can bring to it. I if you're getting alerts and things, that's different, but
how can we approach this to what we're trying to do?
I'm not opposed to the effort. I'm just not sure it belongs in the police commission.
Absolutely. The bottom line is, how do we get the information to get it out to the people? Who's the source we should go to? And I'm with Nancy. Maybe it's not you, Tom, but who can give us the information so that I'm walking in my neighborhood and I can say to them, are you aware of? How do I get it to give it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy answer for sure. We use what is available to us. The paper thing and handing out is obviously I don't have the resources to do that on every occurrence. And, sometimes, 2-3 times a week, sometimes, less or not quite that frequent, but yeah, it's it's a big initiative and a big effort to try to do something, especially in the paper form. That's why we use what's available to us now. I get that it doesn't reach everybody and we got to do a better job. And I'm willing to explore that for sure.
Let's take it a different place. What if I want my neighbors to know something that's going on? Where do I go to get it, Tom?
Well, currently,
Mhm.
the Cape Gazette isn't, I don't know that they'll be a great resource for us because they don't, they obviously, they're in the business of selling newspapers, and some minor scam might not, suit their needs. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just their business. We use our Facebook, we use the city website, we use the city Facebook. That's really the only true means. Cape Gazette will publish something if there's a big arrest or something, but usually that's the exception.
Okay, so let's take them out of the picture, and I'm just talking about just finding out let's say there's a scam going on
Are
right
you on
now.
our
in
Facebook
Lewis.
page?
I don't do Facebook at all.
City website, usually the two are correlated. If it's on my Facebook, I make sure it gets to the city side posted. So, it's what I have available with the manpower.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
I have
Who's
a little
responsible?
bit of a comment about that, and maybe I hope I'm coming from where the chief is. I'm afraid he's saying that these things have such a short span on them that by the time you try to reach people about a specific issue, they've left town. But maybe if you would come up with some different ways to communicate with people, like the top 10 things they should look for, or something that would give them cautionary tale. And that kind of stuff can come from a lot of resources. Even I'm sure the police have some guidelines about telling the public how to be careful of cyber theft.
Sure.
And I agree with you that everybody doesn't get Facebook, and nor do I. So I think you could put something like that in something tangible and put it out, and it would be lasting, but it would not mean something that's happening at the moment. But that's probably
You're saying it wouldn't have any value because by the time it got out, it's over.
and I don't believe you're going to find anything that's going to work that way because, like he said, these things are fast moving, and you're trying to reach a lot of people. So it's better to educate the people in general the best way you can to look out for it. And I think that would be a role that the committee or the committee or the police department or somebody would be happily to get behind it. But and I definitely agree with you that everybody can't be electronic. But I also agree with what Nancy said, and I was going to say it too, that I think it gives some good coverage when you work with somebody like the library to put on a seminar like this or a Zoom. They had hundreds of people, and I got signed up for another one for the Birding Association, and they're all just coming to the library. The library is really getting behind that. But I think maybe just like any kind of postings of safety issues, you could do it with hard copy or you could do it electronically, but I don't think you can keep track of every issue that comes up.
And as fast as it's moving. Right. Yeah, that's true, Larry.
Well, one idea on Larry's top, and do this, don't do that kind of list, is we might be able to get a pretty good saturation if we came up with a flyer, a one-pager, simple, Public Works to include in its bill. And since the board lost all of our information a couple of years ago, maybe they help us out. But about everybody gets a Public Works bill, every month. A lot of people get it electronically, but for the people who don't, it would be hard copy.
And anything that you had that was available like that would be perfect as far as showing some presence and community policing. If you did hand it out once or twice at the farmers market or any other event that was going on. I know I was on the pedestrian bicycle committee, and for the first year, we went to every farmers market and handed out safety rules for biking and where it was safe and what was not safe and programs like that. So I think both ways, electronically and just the old-fashioned way, are good ways to show that you're trying.
And if the concerts start again and the things on down on the canal.
Right, it's true.
Can I raise another issue that I think Carolyn and I worked on a little bit in the old commission, and that was just continuing to look at the oversight of police discipline and other issues of how that works. And I know you said the internal investigations have worked quite well. You know, are there parts of the accreditation process that affect that? And just use this commission to continue to look at those issues.
Mhm.
Okay,
So at this point, the chief and I discussed any disciplinary issues within the department. So that is something that is going on that has the kind of civilian role involved.
And what if you thought something was out of line?
How would you handle it?
Are there procedures or process, or it's you and the chief working it out, or?
I would say for the most part, it's me and the chief working it out. We do have an attorney who we've been working with, who has expertise in the policing area, who if there was something that, we felt needed kind of an outside view, we would contact that attorney.
I would still recommend trying to look at whether there's some procedures and some transparency that needs to, whether or not it needs to come into the process or not, maybe not, but.
But it's worth looking at.
I guess what's the question? Like what would come into the process? I think that one of the challenges is that the police officer's Bill of Rights is very protective of the disciplinary process.
Absolutely, but it also didn't come off the mountaintop on a set of stones. And if there are areas where it needs to be changed, there are commissions at the state level that are looking at it right now. And we can take our experience and go to those commissions.
okay, so I've got the two things that that folks want to continue to work on, and or maybe well, let me get the consensus then. Do most people want to work on the cybercrime issue, or do you think it's not the
I don't see how we can stay abreast of that. I don't see how we can stay ahead of it.
Well, but what about the training education piece of it?
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, Larry was mentioning how well the library has these various things. Maybe there's a way we can figure out doing something through the library to educate, but it's always going to be behind. At least that's how I'm
Right. I
reading it.
don't think it should be specific to anything. It's just, I think it should be like do be aware, the do's and the don'ts, maybe, and just that, but not anything in particularly specific to one thing. It's just don't give out your social security number over the phone. Don't give your bank account over the phone or something like that. But whatever it is, it can be simple, but not necessarily so targeted that it's going to have to change every time.
I wouldn't be surprised, Chief. Isn't there somebody at a state level that probably walks around and does seminars and things like that for people's cautionary purposes?
Yeah, you mean not in the law enforcement realm?
No, I actually meant the law enforcement realm.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
know whether they had somebody that would go to a community group or something and speak on something like that.
Well, they do, they have a community services unit, Delaware State Police does, but not something that I would prefer to use if we can do it ourselves in our community.
Okay,
which
well,
I think
yeah,
is better.
I only
But the
said that to-
information itself, we will happily steal from them.
Yeah, okay.
That
That's
would
kind of-
normally be a function of my detective. He's in charge of that stuff. Just, we're kind of in a bind right now, staffing wise,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, I would love to eventually have a community policing officer that's their chief job. If I ever get to 15 and we think that maybe there's room for that, that would be a great thing to do. A community services officer that does all that kind of stuff.
And we might be able to, you mentioned before, or maybe Bonnie did, about getting our next fellow. When we do have a new fellow, it's possible that we could have that person work with the police department to get, to do the research, to pull the materials that already exist and develop something, with information that's out there
Mhm.
that we would target to our community.
I would say the development of the information is not easy, but can be done pretty easily. It's about getting it out and communicating it and
Right.
getting all the people that the committee.
Dissemination is a whole
Yeah,
different
it
ball,
is.
right?
Social media is easy and it's fast, but it's certainly not targeted to everybody in our community.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. I know. It's
Okay,
there,
well-
it's real, it's hard to figure out.
Well, I'll put it on I'll put it on the agenda for our next meeting. And people think about it and then we'll see where we go. Does that make sense? Go from there?
Mhm.
I'll say, so I've got,
I'm happy to talk to Rebecca Lowe at the library about
That'd be
whether
good.
she'd be interested.
That'd be good. That'd be real good.
She may
okay,
already have some.
Yeah, no, she may very
Huh?
well. I mean, I've gone to the disaster prevention sort of, how to prepare for a hurricane things that the library did. So
Mhm.
that would fit in with that whole theme.
Mhm.
okay, so the three things I've got for our next agenda then are the cybercrime, police discipline, oversight, and recommendations. And the third thing that I had was working on issues related to the trails. Is that something people want to take on or not?
I don't see how I can't speak. I take that back as I'm not that up on the trail stuff. I remember a long time ago when we started talking about it, Tom, it was though we didn't have much authority when it came to the trails. Is that still the case?
It is. The rules of the road don't apply to the trails.
Oh, well, that's,
Right, that's what
okay.
I-
I thought where we left it was that we didn't have any authority. We didn't have anything on the books, but we could put something on the books. Am I misremembering?
No, that's right. I think by city
Oh,
code,
that
yes.
is-
Yeah, I think
Ah.
the problem is that, as I recall it, is there's a sort of a gap.
Right, but the state statute addresses roadways. And I think there's some level of assumption that can extend to trails, but it hasn't been tested. So I think that the point is to take, some of it could be as simple as taking some of the provisions that are in state code that relate to bicycle movement on highways and adopt them by ordinance in city code as it relates to trails. So, I think that there are probably a number of not terribly complex things that could be done.
Yeah, my recollection was that there was as I said, there was this gap. And so the police officers were unclear on what the rules were that they were supposed to be enforcing. And that was where I thought we could be helpful.
Would it make sense for the bike committee to work on the substance of the rules and for us to look at sort of the manpower implications and those kinds of things for the police? If you
Sure,
were really going to do this, it would seem to me it would be a real drain on the chief's resources.
Right. And Chief, I'm not aware, I haven't looked at every single one of the bike ped committees or any other committees. I try to see most of them, but I don't know that, has the bike ped committee ever taken this on? Because we can certainly suggest it. I can suggest it to Andrew, I think, is their liaison, and say, hey, this is something we talked about in our committee, but we think maybe it's more in your jurisdiction, and see what happens. That's fine. I'm happy to take that, to do it that way.
Yeah, I would
Well-
agree. I think they kind of took a different approach to the issues on the trails, was through the bike ambassador program that might, just by virtue of visibility and more people out there, in some sort of an official uniform that says ambassador, might help as a calming influence on some of those behaviors.
It
I've
might,
kind of
but-
been, I've kind of been on both sides of that deal when I was on the bike ped committee, and I was also a volunteer for the state parks, and it's like they had an ambassador program.
Mhm.
And my first week, I was very zealous about it and very polite and everything, but basically I got told to go take a flying leap when I tried to help somebody. I'm afraid that I believe personally, and I spend as much time on the trails as I do anywhere else, signage is the best you can do. Actually, the things that I think that are the most dangerous, and I don't think the trails are being, I think they're being ridden pretty smart by most of the people right now. I don't think it's a big issue. I think the issue with a lot of the public and the other bikers who know more are the bike infringements that are taking place on the streets. People going the wrong way, and people going on the sidewalk, and all those kind of things. But I don't think the bike trails are a big issue right now. I think there could be.
How about in the summertime, Larry?
Well, in the summertime, everything is an issue, and honestly, you're not going to win that battle. I drive at least 3 days a week. I ride from here to Rehoboth and back again, and then I go to the Georgetown way. And I don't think you could ever, other than any kind of just trying to let people know, educate them how you really are supposed to do this, that you're really going to come up with anything. You just got, every year you get more and more people on those trails, and things are just going to happen, but they're not because they're being reckless or crazy. Sometimes they just don't know better. But the trails, and of course they had a really severe accident toward the end of the summer out on the Georgetown Trail. I didn't realize that they had turned over the jurisdiction of those trails to the city. That trail goes all the way to Hudson Road practically.
Oh, no. We only go to the city limits.
Correct.
Oh, no.
Not from Savannah Road to Gills Neck Road.
Yes,
Oh.
let's not go any further than that.
Oh, that makes more sense. So really the only trails that we're involved in are the library and maybe the one that goes out
Don't
past
say
the
it out
ferry.
loud, because they'd love to turn it over.
Yeah, no. Well, somebody needs to do something, but again, it's really, I don't find it that big an issue, but there are issues that people always talk about with bicyclists and pedestrians in terms of what they're doing on the streets, not so much what they're doing on the trail.
Maybe we just need signage from Savannah to Gills Neck.
Savannah
Sounds
to
like-
Gills Neck.
As somebody who walks the
The
rest of
Georgetown-
it, you need it
Georgetown
on the whole
Trail.
trail.
Yeah, okay.
What'd you say, Nancy? I didn't hear you.
I said, as someone who's a pedestrian on the part that goes from the library down toward Georgetown, the whole trail needs to, I mean, we need to work with the other jurisdictions so that it's uniform and it doesn't end at the minute you cross Savannah Road and everybody goes nuts.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit what happens now on the weekends. It's really not safe to be a pedestrian on the weekends during the summer.
It's not safe to be a pedestrian in the summer period. Now, on certain trails, like the Gordon's Pond Trail, we won't.
Yeah,
we won't do
it
that.
doesn't work unfortunately, it really doesn't work that well with people and bicycles when they get those kind of numbers out there. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people know which way they are supposed to walk. I don't know I know what you're supposed to walk if you're walking on the streets, but when you're walking on a bike trail, it seems better to do the opposite of what you do on the street, because you're walking right at a bicycle and he'll run right over you. So it's going to get worse, but I don't know what you can do about it. And nobody's policing it. Absolutely no one's policing it.
I don't know if it's
I
something we can take on.
I don't mean you, Chief. I mean the state, the parks. They're not doing anything.
I saw the lieutenant one day in the gator or whatever you call that thing, the sort of golf cart.
Yeah, they almost ran over us with that thing.
I thought he was very effective on a Sunday down by the library.
Oh, so
Good.
Well, that takes care of that one, Bonnie.
Okay, fair enough.
The good news that
Scratch
when it
that
comes
one.
to the trails is there's not really statistically speaking any statistics in the city. We're lucky that way. I totally agree that trails are very concerning and potentially very dangerous. But statistically, I think we've had, only 2 bike accidents in the last year.
In the
You know,
city, in the city.
Yeah, we did,
Yes, in the city.
and not, for what it's worth, both the accidents were the bike's fault, which is not good, but it's better, to me, it's better than having the police, having the motorists running the police down. God, running the bicycles down. 7 o'clock, we've been doing this. I've been on Zooms all day and
Oh, that's it.
I'm fried.
Well, it's time to zoom off then, Bonnie.
Well, I was going to say, I think the last thing we need to do tonight,
Yeah.
so 3 things. First, set our next meeting date.
Well,
And I'd suggest sometime in maybe the last week of March.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
So somehow I have one on my calendar.
Well,
I have one on my calendar for
I
the
think we
16th.
did one, and then we had no, I took it. Well, I think we did have it. We had like a fallback date.
Okay.
I was going to suggest the 25th.
25th of March, Bonnie?
That's just my suggestion. How does that look to people?
Okay.
Works for me.
5:30?
Is that a Wednesday?
It's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
I'm on the wrong month. Wait a minute. March.
We did have a city committee where people at 5:30ish, they had a meeting and they were drinking wine. Don't do that. We're not allowed to do that.
That's on a Thursday.
The rules
Yeah.
went out, Bonnie. Nobody does that anymore.
So 5:30, 25th.
Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, and the issue that we're going to talk about is the cybercrime,
Cybercrime and police discipline,
uh,
those are the 2 things.
oversight of policing thing. Okay.
But as
Police
always,
discipline, right.
yeah, as always, if things come up, Chief, if you have something, Anne Marie, obviously the committee members, send it to me and we'll put it on the agenda.
Right.
This is not prescriptive. This is just what came out of the meeting. Okay, so that's number 1.
5:30.
I forgot what number 2 was. So number 3 was going to be a motion to adjourn.
You
So
got it.
move.
Okay, Nancy moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Can I just, we're adjourned. Well, everybody votes, right? Good. Trina, can I just say, I listened to the African American Heritage Commission last week, and those 3 ladies that you had were fabulous. Just
They
fabulous.
were wonderful.
They were fantastic.
Those are going to be our go-tos when we need to get information for sure.
It was really, really a wonderful seminar. If you guys haven't seen it, you can pull it off of Zoom. It was just a
on the,
wonderful.
There's a link to it from the homepage. It's under news and announcements.
Oh, great. It's just a wonderful, talk about 3 classy ladies talking about a Lewis that we unfortunately don't have.
Where
as
do I
much
get
of.
it? Go on where to get it?
If you go to the city's webpage and you scroll down a little bit, there's a section that says news and announcements. It should be the top thing under news and announcements.
News and
It was
announcement. I'll
really
do it
lovely.
tomorrow.
It was
I
lovely.
will do it tomorrow. News and announcement. Okay.
Thanks to your commission for putting that on, because it was great.
Well,
Yeah.
and
It's a
let
group
me
effort.
also, if we're going to give a shout out to Trina, she provided, Sue Ann puts together an employee newsletter called the Employee Spotlight. And for Black History Month, I guess did she just reach out to you, Trina?
Yeah, she just reached out to me and asked if I would give her some information about my father. So I gave her a little
Okay,
bit.
well, but you
Oh,
gave her a
cool.
lot more than that, right?
Nope.
Oh. Okay, I thought that you gave her, because she did, you saw what she put together. It was,
She did that on her own. I only gave her my
oh,
about my father, so she did an
okay. So
excellent job.
she had said that you helped her with it, so I thought, okay, well, that's exciting. Okay.
She
Cool.
did a wonderful job. Mhm.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody. It was a
Bye,
good meeting.
everybody.
You
Thanks,
too.
Tom. Thank you, and Anne Marie especially.
Be good.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care,
Take care.
Bonnie.
Hey, everybody.